that have walked in the last few minutes, we ask that you please do the social distancing thing, with the exception of those that you're with, your family, your particular group. We prefer that you have your masks on while you're in the building. We have taken temperatures, and we'll be doing that again tomorrow morning. Hand sanitizer in different places throughout the building. Snacks in the back for anybody who'd like to grab some of those. We have coffee and water, cookies and fruit. Restroom locations to your right up in the upper level. And we'd love to have you fill out a green card if you have not already registered in the back. We know you registered online, but we'd like to have the attendance by your being here so that we can check that. And then tomorrow morning, the schedule says 8:30. Now, if you want to show up at 8:30, that's fine, but we're not really starting until close to 9. So if you want to be here between 8:30 and 8:45, get checked in, get your temperatures done, come in. We'll have pastries and coffee and that kind of stuff, so we're very happy to have you with us. Again, I'm Rick Edgman, one of the ministers here. We have a couple of other ministers, Tony in the back and Jordan. They're running the sound and all the video stuff, and so we're very happy to have them with us working that. And so on behalf of the Metro Church of Christ, its elders and its membership, we want to welcome you. Glad to have you with us tonight. And for those that are on live stream that will be joining us, we're glad to have you also. Trey and Lee have been married for over 30 years and have raised 4 boys. They have been involved in marriage ministry and marriage coaching for over 20 years. And so we want to introduce them. Let's give them a welcome, please.
We are glad that y'all are here. It's going to be a fun weekend. Some of you may have been, you may feel like you were drugged here a little bit by your spouse. We promise you're not gonna, nobody's gonna make you do anything crazy or anything wild, or by the time the weekend is over, you'll be glad you came. We're gonna have a good time and just spend some time talking about marriages. Our material, a lot of our material has got a lot of humor built into it, so we want you to feel comfortable in laughing and enjoy that time together in visiting. We're going to give you all some homework throughout the weekend. There'll be homework tonight that you'll do before in the morning when you come back. I think you'll like the homework. It'll be fun, and we are just looking forward to spending some time with you guys, and we appreciate the Metro Church and their awesome hospitality of letting us come and do a workshop here. And I'll tell you more about them later, but we're honored that they were good enough to say, yeah, come on, and provide everything for us and do such a good job with setup and everything else. While we've got a few minutes, or we're still shooting for 7 o'clock, but we've got a few minutes. If you've got your workbook, look at that quiz over here on the front inside cover. And let's just talk about it for a second, and then we'll get started. Just because it will play a role in several of the sessions that we do here in just a little while. Some things that just may kind of pique your interest, that you may go, I didn't know that. What do most wives claim as their number one need? All right, so let's just see some hands for fun. How many of you think it's communication? Raise your hand. How many of you think it's honesty? Raise your hand. How many of you think it's affection? Raise your hand. How many of you think it's sexual fulfillment? Raise your hand. Now, if I would be over there going, baby, raise your hand right there on that one. Raise your hand. According to Dr. Willard Harley and his studies he's done with women and polling women, he says that most women say affection is their number one need. Now, that may not be your wife's number one need. That's why it's important this weekend. Part of your homework tonight will be to discuss these things, is because affection isn't even close to the top of Lee's list. There's some other things at the top of her list, but affection isn't one of them. So just don't automatically think, well, there's my wife. I got it all figured out. I'll write her a note, and I'll hold her hand every now and then, and she'll be good to go. So that may not be the case. So number two down here, what do most husbands claim is their number one need? Affection? Now, if that was the case, we wouldn't even be here, right? I mean, everything would be perfect because both husbands and wives would need the same thing. How about sexual fulfillment? B. How about recreational companionship? C. Or admiration? D. All right, now all of those are very important to men. According to Dr. Willard Harley, he said most men he has surveyed say sexual fulfillment is their number one need. It may not be your husband's, ladies, but we'll talk about that as we go. Number 3, what is damaging? What are the following things on this list are damaging to your marriage? Putting your marriage on cruise control, no longer pursuing your mate as you did pre-marriage, being critical, not striving to meet your spouse's needs, or E, all of the above. There you go, all of the above. That's pretty easy, right? When you see them all of the above, that's generally the right answer. Which leads into number 4. In what way does a husband build intimacy with his wife? Now, hold on a sec, because this will be fun. We'll talk about this tomorrow more. When husbands see the word intimacy, we oftentimes automatically just think sex. But when wives hear the word intimacy, there's a whole lot more involved in it. And with wives, what we find out on all of the above is that to build intimacy, it takes communication and praise and loyalty and trust, all of the above on that list. We'll talk about those this weekend, okay? Number 5, this is important. Number 5, what things should you keep as a secret from your spouse? You may want to throw that out there. Text messages, purchases, wrong passwords to email, or nothing. Nothing. There you go. Very good. Nothing is the right answer, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. If you've bought them something for Christmas, you can keep that a secret, okay? Other than that, if you follow us on social media, you'll hear us say oftentimes, secrets are dangerous in marriage. If you're keeping secrets of things and hiding things from your spouse, those are things you probably should not be doing, okay? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Here's a great one, number 6. We are on the inside cover, just working through a little quiz before we get started. Inside cover, little quiz, number 6. Due to jobs, TV, internet, hobbies, home, family responsibility, the average married couple spends how much time alone together each day? 4 minutes? 12 minutes? 60 minutes? You ready for this? A, 4 minutes. Now, you're kind of like us, and you're kind of going, wow. Yeah, it's hard to have a good marriage spending 4 minutes a day together. Now, we're not talking 4 minutes watching a movie together. We're talking 4 minutes where we've had some conversation and we're not looking at our phones and the kids aren't climbing in our laps. 4 minutes where we're face-to-face talking. 4 minutes is not enough. We'll talk about that as we go. Over what percent of people who marry partners from an affair eventually divorce? What's the divorce rate for couples who have married someone that they've had an affair with? 40%, 50%, 75%? 75%. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow as well. This is an important question. Number 8. People, oftentimes you look at that and go, why are they asking that? Because we want you to understand something, okay? And I'll just give you the answer. According to studies, the average married couple has sex 2 to 3 times a week. Now, we say that because we want you to know we don't know who these people are. We don't know what average is. Average is what you consider to be average. Every couple should make their own average. You should not be held to a standard. You may look at that and go, well, 2 to 3 times a week is not enough. You may look at that and go, we're more comfortable with 2 or 3 times a month. The point is you make your average in what you think it should be. Don't let some statistic make you go, well, what's wrong with us? Here's what you need to know about this, and again, we'll talk about it tomorrow. In a healthy marriage, both husband and wife mutually agree on how often that takes place. That is not a one person in the marriage that gets to decide how often it takes place. It is a mutual agreement between a husband and a wife. And so that's how marriage works best, is when it comes together like that. Average cost of a wedding? We're going to talk about it in just a minute. $25,000. How you like that right there? Is that pretty crazy, right? $25,000? Wow. And if you've had a wedding recently, you may be going, yeah, doesn't take much to add $25,000 up pretty quick. And you may have got married recently and said, we probably spent $2,000. Well, somebody went way over, right, to keep that average at 25. Here's the interesting thing right here. Number 10, average cost of a divorce is what? About $25,000. Yeah, isn't that amazing? 50% of marriages are ending in divorce. What happens when a couple comes to you and says, we're having some marriage problems and we can't afford counseling? What would you tell them from number 10 down here on the list? There you go. What you can't afford is a divorce. Counseling is a whole lot cheaper than a divorce is going to be. So figure out a way to make it work. So we're glad you're here. We're going to have fun this weekend. We've said that. Let me introduce a video that we're going to watch and that you'll kind of like. These are just kind of fun little videos to kind of keep us going. We do have some newlyweds in here because I met them a little while ago. Won't call them out, but we're glad if you're a newlywed in here, we're glad you're here. I like newlyweds because newlyweds do a really good job. Newlyweds, awesome. Newlyweds do a really good job overlooking the things that get on their nerve about their new spouse. Make sense? You ask a newlywed, how you like your new husband? He's just perfect, And we're always like, give him some time, he'll be on your nerves in no time. Or she's just, But newlyweds do such a good job overlooking the things that really can drive others crazy, and they really notice the things their spouse does well. And we need to be more like that. And what happens is, those of us who aren't newlyweds, you know what we do? Just the opposite. The longer you're married, the more you notice the things that drive you nuts about your spouse, and the less you notice what they do well. Make sense? So we need to do a better job at being newlyweds. So check this little video out. You're going to like this right here. Oh, let me turn.
Do these pants make me look fat?
What? You look like a supermodel. You look fantastic.
Newlyweds. Do these pants make me look fat?
We could get you a treadmill for Christmas if you really wanted one.
Not so newlyweds.
Hey, I heard the car pull up. Let me get one of these bags.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Newlyweds.
Honey, there's somebody at the door.
Not so newlyweds.
You look really handsome tonight.
It's only because I have to keep up with my beautiful wife.
Newlyweds. You could have at least not worn a hat.
We're at a pizza joint, not a rehearsal dinner.
Not so newlyweds.
Honey, you missed your turn.
Sorry, I'll turn around.
No worries, we can be a little late. Newlyweds. I can't believe you just missed your turn again. Do you want me to drive?
Sure, if you want.
You know what? Just get us there!
Not so newlyweds.
Excuse me.
No worries. It's kind of cute.
Newlyweds. Sorry.
Not so newlyweds.
Well, thanks, honey, for helping me with the dishes.
The quicker we get done with this, the sooner I can eat your delicious cooking.
Newlyweds. Would you mind helping me with the dishes?
Yeah, I'm just gonna finish the sports section real quick.
So what you're saying is you never want to have sex with me again because that's what it sounds like.
Not so newlyweds.
Did you see the big knife in her hand as she said that? I didn't know if anybody else noticed that or not, but I just saw a really big knife, and I thought, wow. Introduction just really quickly. We're Trey and Lee. We grew up in Amarillo, Texas. We were high school sweethearts. We've been married for over 30 years, 32 years to be exact. We have 4 boys. I'll show you a picture of them in a minute, just because you'll hear us talk about them a little bit. We love ministry, marriage ministry. We're big baseball fans. That's just a little bit about us. Some of you follow us on social media. We're honored about that, and you're here because of that. Thank you for doing that. Here is where my clicker is there we go. It took off. That's where we live. People always ask, where's Childress, Texas? That's where we are, right there on the star and on the map. There's our family, just real quickly. Our 4 boys, we have 2 of them that are married. Taylor is our oldest. He's on your far left. He and his wife, Callie. Taylor is ex-military, special operations, Army Ranger, spent 5 years in the military doing crazy stuff and loved it. Scared us to death. But as a young man, he loved it. He now owns his own insurance business in Lubbock, Texas, and he and his wife, Callie, have been married right at 2 years. Parker on the far right, and Abby, she is an RN. He is an high school English teacher. Currently, they're our favorite. They've given us a granddaughter. And so, yeah, we keep telling the others, catch up. I don't know what you're waiting on, because we really like grandbabies. Our 3rd oldest son next to me is Connor, and he is he's our strong-willed child. Any of y'all have strong-willed children? Yes. In our family workshop that we do, it's kind of part 2 of this one. In our family workshop we talk a lot about Connor. He was our strong-willed child. We love Connor, but he was the one that said, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to work from home. And we said, Connor, you don't get jobs where you work from home without having a real job first for a lot of years, and then maybe you can work from home. Connor went to school, got a degree. He works from home like he said he was going to, because he's the strong-willed child. And he does very well at what he does. Cooper is a freshman at Lubbock Christian University, a biology major. He's right there next to his mama. And he is our last to leave the nest, and left this last fall, and we are empty nesters, and we're enjoying it, I think. Yeah, we're having fun. But we enjoy watching it. We've talked to Cooper today. We check in on all our boys and kids and everybody else. There's just, man, how can you not throw a picture in of a new grandbaby? So there you go, all right? She's about the sweetest thing that's happened in a long time. So how many of you in here would say that you married somebody that's pretty different than you are? Would you go ahead and just admit that? It's okay. There's not anything wrong with that. For a long time, people used to go, he's so different, or she's just so different than I am. There's not anything wrong with that. In fact, sometimes I think if you would have married someone just like you, they probably would have driven you nuts, right? God somehow or another often causes opposites to attract, and he does that for a reason. We'll talk about it in a second. But Lee and I, you can't get any more different night and day in our personalities, our likes, our dislikes. It's just who we are. I'm a be on time guy. Do we have be on time people in here? Yes, there's my people right there. There's my family. Be on time. Now, if you're not a be on time person, let me explain what this means. Be on time means you're there at least 15 minutes before it starts. That's be on time. Yeah. Preach. There you go. 15 minutes. If you show up as it's starting, that to be on time people, you're late. Does that make sense? Now, I didn't marry a be on time girl.
Let's just say if running late were an exercise, I would be so fit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We live in a small town, and sometimes we can take 2 cars, and I can leave when I want to, and she can leave when she wants to, and it works out really well. Fixes a lot of marriage issues. I'm a little on the unorganized side.
I'm pretty organized. I think everything has its place, and I want everything in its place.
I'm not big on details, meaning I don't have to have a lot of details in this world to function. Tell me the when, the where I need to be, and I'm good to go. Boy, we'll work it out when we get there.
I need details. I want to know who, what, when, where, why, and how.
She likes details.
All the
details.
That is true.
I'm an extrovert, and being up here in front of you guys and getting to meet all of y'all today is pretty awesome.
And I'm an introvert, and I'm still trying to figure out how he's convinced me to be up here in front of you guys.
That's true. We both kind of like the same music, but I'm generally hunting some classic rock, and she's generally hunting,
Maybe some classic country.
yeah, something along those lines. I like my tea sweet.
And I drink mine unsweet.
I like my coffee black.
And I drink mine with cream.
Yeah, and cereal. I love cereal, but I like my cereal in a really big bowl with a really big spoon.
I tease him that he eats like 6 servings in one sitting. I eat my cereal in the normal spoon, like a normal person.
There you go. I'm a morning person. I like mornings. I'm already looking forward. I can't wait till in the morning to get up. I like early mornings. Mornings make me happy. Earlier the better.
I'm a night owl. In fact, it's usually mid-morning before I decide if I'm even going to be a Christian for the day.
About 10 a.m. and a couple of cups of coffee. I fall asleep very quickly and very easily. Moments. If I had a superpower, yeah, I can look over and go, I'm going to go to sleep now, and do.
And I'm so jealous of his superpower because a lot of nights I feel like I just lay there and wait until morning. Not a very good sleep.
I drink coffee in the morning because I enjoy coffee.
And I drink coffee in the mornings for the protection of others. Kind of a neat freak.
I'm a little on the messy side.
When it comes to shopping, I love to use coupons, read labels, compare prices, try everything on.
Yeah. And then go back to the first place and buy whatever it was. Yeah. I can get a whole new wardrobe in 10 minutes at whatever store we're at. Grab it, let's go. That's right.
And when it comes to toilet paper in our house, it goes over the top of the roll.
And I didn't even know there was a right way to put toilet paper on before I got married. I just was glad if I showed up and it was there, you know? I have learned all kinds of stuff since I got married, and that's really good. So let's talk for a second. We mentioned the needs, and while we're talking about the differences for a second, if you'll notice something that we noticed, talking about our differences, the first couple of years of our marriage, we almost drove each other crazy because I spent all my time trying to fix her to be more like me, and she spent all of her time trying to fix me and wondering what my mama had done to, how in the world what did she do to him, and we finally realized that we love one another for how God created us, that we're different from one another, and it's okay to be different. In fact, we've kind of learned that my weaknesses, the things I don't do well in life, happen to be her strengths. And the things that she doesn't do well, the things she's a little uncomfortable with, happen to be my strength. It's incredible sometimes how God takes two people that maybe aren't completely well-rounded in every area and blends them together and goes, hey, you pay the bills and keep the checkbook because this guy over here is not ever going to be able to figure that kind of stuff out. He's messy and he doesn't do details well. And she can ask me, hey, I have a bill here. I don't understand it. Can you call these people? You're an extrovert. Can you call these people, talk to them? And I'm like, thank you. I love calling and talking to people. I just can't wait to visit with them on the phone for a while. And so it's okay to be different. Learn to lean on one another in your strengths and your weaknesses. As we talked a little while ago, and one of the homework assignments tonight we'll give you and we'll show you in a little while, is to talk a little bit about these 10 needs in marriage. And this is what we're going to talk about for the rest of the evening. We'll talk to the husbands, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to talk to the wives. But we're going to talk about these kind of 10 emotional needs. Generally in marriage, wives will have 5 that are kind of their top 5, and husbands will have some of their top 5s, and some of you will have the same one in your top 5, and sometimes you're like a little couple from Arkansas that we met the other day, and he walked up and he goes, hey, we just did our needs survey together, and I want you to notice that her top 5 And my top 5 are exactly the opposite. And I said, welcome to marriage. That's how most of the times it works out. So we're going to walk through this for just a moment before we get in the first session and talk about what these emotional needs are for just a moment. So here's 10 emotional needs in marriage. And generally, as we said, husbands have about 5 that are really important to them. Wives have, we like all 10 of them, but we usually just talk top 5. Wives have 5 that are really important to them. We'll start first with the first one up there, sexual fulfillment. Not always the husband's number 1 need, and sometimes it's maybe on a wife's list. But Dr. Willard Harley says most of the time, many husbands have this toward the top of their list is sexual fulfillment.
Number 2 is affection, and this is touch, holding hands, rubbing the back. It's also things like saying, I love you, writing sweet notes, just little acts to show that you care.
A lot of those things, yeah. Financial support, and that is basically one of those things to where one spouse says, I just want to make sure that there's enough money at the end of the month to pay all the bills. I just need to know we're going to be okay.
Number 4 is domestic support, and I would say maybe 50% of the population, maybe not that, but usually there's at least one person in the marriage that really wants home to feel like their sanctuary. They need, peace and quiet at home, which encompasses like things are clean, things are tidy, there's a promise of a meal that's going to be on the table. So that's domestic support.
Yeah, not always a man, sometimes a woman.
Yeah.
Number 5, recreational companionship. Dr. Willard Harley says this generally is really close. If it's sexual fulfillment is not for a man, it'll be one of these. This means most of the time, and it could be on the woman's side too, but most of the time, women or men love when their wives participate with them in whatever hobby it is that they do. Loves having them hang out with them, ask them questions about, whatever hobby it is, just come hang out, be my friend, do with me whatever it is that I like to do. That's recreational. In Texas, we have a lot of guys that, deer hunt, and I love it when my wife goes deer hunting with me.
Number 6 is conversation. This usually falls on the women's list, but not always. We've known a lot of men that are, bigger talkers than the woman, but women generally need conversation from their husbands.
Openness and honesty. Everybody needs this. But this is also very, very important, as Lee will talk later, that a lot of women go, I need this open and honesty. I need this. This is just the foundation of intimacy. For me to feel intimate and close to you is openness and honesty.
Family commitment. This is making sure that family is just as important, if not more important, than jobs and hobbies and, all of those things. Family is important and is a priority.
Yeah. Number 9, attractiveness of spouse. And there's not anything wrong with this. This basically just means my spouse. Men are very visual, and it's not always a man thing, but men are very visual, and a lot of times they, go, hey, if we're gonna go out for a date, put on something. I'd like it when you really dress up. We'll talk about that in a little while, and that's important to a lot of people. I don't want you to just always look like you're in, a husband who's in his sweats all day long or his pajama pants, and looking nice is important.
The last one is admiration. A lot of people really have a strong need to just be built up and to be told, you're doing awesome, and they just need that encouragement.
Yeah, and so there are those, and we'll talk about those as we go a little bit into this next session. Now, we found out a little while ago, average cost of a wedding is about $25,000, that's been 3 or 4 years ago. It's probably gone up a little bit. And the average divorce rate is about 50%, which is a pretty big gamble for a $25,000 gamble. Wouldn't you agree with that? Here's what we want you to understand. People often ask, why is the divorce rate at 50%? One of the issues is couples go into marriage and they've spent a couple of years focusing on this right here. They spent a year getting ready for a wedding. They know who goes down an aisle and what colors and who's going to do this. They've spent a whole year talking about a wedding, and they've spent zero amount of time getting ready for how do we get to right here. Weddings are okay, but the marriage is what's important. How do you get to 40, 50 years, however many it is that God gives you? That's what matters. Because honestly, everybody's going to forget this in time. You're even going to have a hard time. Right? Those of us in here who were married back before you had it on tape or video, you're like, well, I remember where we got married, and I kind of remember who was there, but I don't remember a whole lot of details about it. You forget these things. But you know what people won't forget? When you build a great marriage, people won't forget that. And you know who else won't forget that? The most important people in your world. Your children and your grandchildren, because you have the ability to change future generations by the marriage that you build. You want your kids to have a good marriage? You're going to have to model what marriage looks like. You want your grandkids to have a good marriage? You're going to have to model what marriage looks like. Your children and your grandchildren are in your school of marriage, like it or not. And so it's important that you're already thinking ahead. How do we inspire our kids and our grandkids someday to want to go, I want to get married, and I know what a healthy marriage looks like because my parents modeled that for me. And so this is the goal. At some point in your life, to be able to look across the room at your spouse or across the table and take your spouse's hand when you're in your 80s or whatever it is and say, we made it, we did it. We were able to, yes, we have built a great marriage. And so that's our goal. That's what we're going to talk about this weekend. All right, so here is a verse. We're going to give a theme verse. We're going to talk to husbands first. And we're going to spend about 45 minutes talking to husbands. We'll take a little break, and then we're going to spend the rest of the night talking about wives. But we have a theme verse for both. And we're going to start with the husbands. In Ephesians 5, verse 25, here's your theme verse, guys. And this is really important because we want to know, how am I to love my wife? Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives just as, or just like, Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Let me say that one more time, all right? Because it's important. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church, and he, notice that word in red, gave himself up for her. Now, if we're talking English, that word gave is what kind of word? Yes, it is an action word for a second. So, we learn when we do marriage like God created, who is the creator of marriage, like God created marriage to be done, marriage works well. And what he says is, husbands, love your wives with action. Love your wife with action. Now, we as husbands oftentimes think of love as a feeling, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like them little butterflies. After 32 years of marriage, I still get those little butterflies in there. Lee sits over close to me, and I kind of get all tingly in there, you know, and I like that, but that's not love. That may be an effective love, but love is not butterflies in your stomach. We've told our boys, as we've raised 4 boys, hey boys, sometime or another, there's going to be some cute little girl that's going to scoot over next to you really close, and you're going to get all tingly inside, and you're going to think, man, I am in love, I'm in love. And we tell them, say, buddy, that's not love, okay? What you're probably feeling is common sense. It's leaving your body, you know, but it ain't love, you know. Love is an action. Love is something you do. It's not something you just feel. And it's not just something you just say. Sometimes as men, we just go, well, I told my wife I loved her, you know. Well, that's awesome. But show her. You want to do marriage right, show your wife you love her. Love her with action. Now, the thing that we find as we talk about, and if you got your little handout, you got blanks on there, all right? We want you to fill these out as you go. Husbands, Number one, never stop pursuing your wife. You see the action in that verse, or in that point right there? Don't stop pursuing your wife. Now, you go, what does that mean to pursue her? Think about this for a second, all right? And I'm going to turn it over to Lee. What were all the things you did before you got married to win her? Remember those things you used to do? What are some things that men did in order to try to really get their girlfriend to become their fiance and to sometimes say, yes, I do? Do you remember what that was? What'd you do? Yeah, you sent her some flowers, you took her on dates, held her hands. You just go down the list. All those things that you did to pursue your wife, guess what you should still be doing today? Very same thing. It doesn't stop. Once you caught her, you don't stop those things. A lot of men do. They think, well, why do I still gotta send flowers, you know? I mean, she's my wife now. She said I do. She's got on my ring. Why do I still need to do that? Because she fell in love with a man who chased her. And she should still be loved by a man who does the same thing. Just because she said I do doesn't mean you stop pursuing her. You want your relationship and your marriage to be good? Don't stop pursuing your wife. Now, back where I'm from, we use this illustration all the time because they go, oh, that makes sense. We have guys in our area who are big deer hunters, and they will, for seasons, 2 or 3 years in a row, watch a specific buck that they want to shoot. They'll go out and they'll stalk it and they'll watch it. They go, oh, he's too small. Give him a couple more years. Next year, oh, he's bigger. I'll keep feeding him. Next year, he's like, man, he is perfect. That's the one I want. I want to put him on my wall. And they finally shoot him. And they've spent 3 years pursuing that deer. And they finally get that deer. And they put the head on the wall with a big deer, you know, this sort of thing on it. And then it's kind of like, all right, I'm done. I got him. There you go. Perfect. We take that same philosophy into marriage sometimes. It's like you chase and you chase and you chase and you finally win her and she says, I do. And a lot of men are like, all right, I got her. I'm done. I don't have to chase anymore. No, she's not a head hanging on the wall. She is a living relationship that you must continue to pursue. You continue to do that even after you have caught her. Work as hard to keep her as you did to win her in the first place. Lee, give us some ideas on what men can do. Some of these affection things.
So let me give you a good list of things you can do to show your wife that you love her. One of the things Trey does for me that I love is that he fills my car up with gas. He just makes sure it's always full, and I just don't ever have to mess with that. And it's great. I love that. Open doors for her. Carry things for her, write sweet little notes that she'll find, you know, laying around the house, or send her a sweet text message, maybe call during the day just to check on her. Send flowers. Trey mentioned several of these, but I'm repeating some of the things he said because we all know men need to hear things more than once, right? So send her flowers. Now, Trey did do this early in our marriage, but this was something that this was a learning thing for us because
know your wife. It's
you got to know your wife.
Your wife.
I loved the gesture. I thought, oh, this was so sweet. I loved the flowers, but I did not love that he spent $50 on something that was going to die in a week. And so I had to explain to him, you know, honey, I really, this was so sweet. I loved it, but you know, maybe just one single flower, I would love that because I could buy so many groceries. We were on such a tight budget. And then he made friends with the neighbor lady who had beautiful rose bushes, and they struck up a conversation that, you know, he loved buying roses for his wife. And she said, oh, you just come pick roses for her anytime. And so that was great because that was free, and I love free. But it was still a nice gesture. And
she still calls today. Every year when her roses bloom, she calls and goes, my roses, in case you haven't noticed, Trey, my roses are blooming. Come pick some for Lee. She even helps me. Last year she called and said, and I have set a vase on my front porch for you. How easy is that, right? I hope I still get some credit for that, but, yeah, but some wives love the big
Yes,
house.
some wives want the big bouquet, and so if if she's one that wants you to spend the $50 and you're really like, oh, I really don't want to do that, but she loves it, then you do it occasionally. Sweet little gifts every once in a while, little surprises. Maybe she sends you to the store for a gallon of milk, and you slip her favorite candy bar in the bag. But there again, you have to know what the favorite candy bar is, right? So, or favorite snack, maybe she doesn't eat sweets, but you know what her favorite snack is, and you slip that in the bag.
How many guys know their wife's favorite candy bar?
Nope.
Awesome.
Homework.
Homework, yeah, find out what that is. If you don't, and you're at the store and you're going, well, I can't, just get some chocolate, all right? She's gonna probably like that.
Usually works, yeah. Cook for her every once in a while. Now, you may be the cook in the family all the time, and that is awesome, but if you're not, and you volunteer to cook dinner every once in a while, man, she will love that. If you just flat don't cook, then take her out to dinner, order in when you know she's had a long, busy day, do the dishes, that's a great one. Hold her hand, tell her she's pretty, all those things. Great ways to just keep showing your wife how much you care about her and how much you love her.
Yeah, don't stop pursuing. That is an action thing. Show your wife you love her by doing little things like that for her. Number 2, commit to making date night a weekly activity. All right, now this kind of falls in with number 1. This is something you did before you got married, and it's also something you should be doing now. You commit to making date night a weekly activity. You go, why have you given that to the men? Because before you got married, guys, it was you who were constantly saying things like, are you free Thursday night? How about Friday night? Are you free Saturday night? Can we go out Saturday night? You were the one pushing to go out, and then all of a sudden now she's like begging you, can we please go out for a date somewhere? You come in and you go, hey, what night do you have free this week? Let's plan a date, all right? You get a sitter, I'll plan the date, supper, whatever it is, and you plan it like you used to. She needs you to date her. Dating is fuel for your marriage. You fell in love while you were dating. You will continue to be in love while you continue to date. Now, you may be going, but we don't have kids at home anymore. It's all right. Take some time every now and then and go on a date. Now, dating has been difficult during the last year or so because it's like, well, we can't go out to movies, we can't go out to eat, we can't go out to concerts. Be creative. There's a lot of things you can do. A lot of things you can do. Give us some examples of some of those things.
Creative
Of
dates.
just created dates and then take over with some of these ideas.
Some of the things you can do is pack a picnic and go to the park and have a picnic, take a walk around the park, feed the ducks some bread. I don't, y'all have ducks around this area, right?
You have a lot of ducks. And bread.
Yeah, go for a bike ride, go for a walk. Man, we love to go on evening walks. Some of our best conversations are just, going for a walk.
Sit on the porch together.
Yes.
So there's a lot of COVID dates. that you
Drag
can have.
out a board game or a deck of cards. And
We had a dress-up date in December. Every December, as long as I can remember, we have always gone out to a concert and dressed up and had a fancy date. I love fancy dates. This December, it was like, can't do that. We still did. We decided we were going to not let this stop us. So one night, we fixed some really nice food in our kitchen. We got dressed up. We found a concert on YouTube of one of our favorite musicians, and we watched it, and we had a stay-at-home dress-up date and had a great time.
now we love to, go on a fancy date when it's not crazy time and, get dressed and go to a nice restaurant, go to a concert. But those are not the kinds of dates you can do all the time because that's just not what you can do all the time. We hear young couples tell us all the time, we can't afford to go on a date. That's not in the budget. We just can't do that. And we were there when we were a young couple. I mentioned we were on a tight budget when we were newly married, and we didn't have family that lived in the same town with us that we could just say, hey, would y'all keep the kiddos? So we had to get creative with our babysitting, and we finally figured out, let's holler at some friends and see, if we can just swap nights. And so we'd ask them, would y'all keep our kids Friday night? We'll keep your kids Saturday night. And that worked out great. Free babysitting. The kids thought it was a blast because they got to hang out with their friends 2 nights in a row. And so that took care of that. And then, we would do some inexpensive things like we mentioned earlier, maybe just a picnic, order pizza in.
We ate
something-
off the dollar menu
Yeah.
a lot at
A lot of dollar
drive-ups.
menus.
Yeah.
Yes, but the point is just do something that gets you out of the ordinary where you can have some of that face-to-face and not day like we talked about. Double dating, I want to mention this, that double dating does not count for your date night because while double dating's great and it's fun and we still encourage you to do that, if you go on a double date, if you're like us, the guys sit in the front seat and they're talking guy stuff and the girls are in the back seat and we're talking girl stuff and we don't really just get that one-on-one time that we want you to have. So
Yeah.
don't
points.
count double dates for this.
Good points. Number 3, be romantic. Be romantic occasionally. You go, I'm not romantic. If you were romantic before you got married, you should still be romantic after you got married. And romance is different. Everybody thinks romance is different. When we as men oftentimes think of romance, we may be thinking something sexual. But maybe what you need to do is ask your wife. I asked Lee a few years ago. We were driving down the road. Still remember where we were. And I was driving down the road and I thought, here's a good question I'll ask her. We were on our way to a workshop. We get a lot of time in a car together. And I said, hey, honey, what are some things that I do that you consider to be romantic? Because I thought I'm going to make a list and I'm going to do these things more often. Whatever that is, the little flowers and the little this and that. And she started naming stuff that really threw me for a loop. She did. The first thing she said, she mentioned it a while ago, first thing she said when I said, what's something I do you find really romantic? She said, when you fill up my car with gas. And I kind of shook my head and I said, that's not romantic. That doesn't have anything to do with sex. I think that was my answer that I said, right? And she goes, it does. You just don't realize it, What women find to be romantic oftentimes is very different than what men perceive to be romantic. It may be two different things. So ask your wife sometime, what are things that you consider to be romantic? I always joke that a lot of ladies find flowers and chocolates as romantic, and Lee finds me loading a dishwasher to be pretty romantic a lot of times, is what I have found out. And so learn your wife, learn what she thinks is romantic. I have learned some of that stuff and what is romantic and the things that she likes and little things, and learn those things. Those things are important. One of the things that I do for Lee that I actually started about 12 years ago, it was on our 20th anniversary. I did a little bit of reading. I thought, I want to do something, an action thing to show Lee I love her. What can I do that I'm not doing? And I'd look and I go, no, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. And I found something on the internet that someone suggested that I thought, I like that. It's kind of a past generational thing that maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents did, and that is where you open the door of the car for your wife when you're out going somewhere. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I'm going to start opening the door for Lee. And so I did, and I told her, and she noticed, and I said, I'm going to start doing this. I want to open the door for you when we're going out together, because I want you to know how much I love you and how important you are to me. And she said, I appreciate that. And I did tell her, I say, you're going to have to help me, though, because you don't just automatically, after 20 years of marriage, just start doing something. I said, I'm going to forget, and I give you permission to help me. I need you to say, hey, you forgot to get my door. Because I need that reminder. I did so good for about 4 or 5 weeks. Man, I am really crushing it. And then I really started slacking off. It's just kind of, the door thing, we'll get it later. And I go, but don't, she'd be sitting next to me in the car, and I go, I didn't get your door. You didn't tell me. And I would kind of throw it at her, going, you should have let me know. So one day, we're at the grocery store, and we're getting ready to go somewhere. And I get in the car and get ready to start the car, and I look over, and she's not sitting there. She's still standing up outside, just standing there. And I go, oh, yes. And I got out, and I ran around. I opened the door for her and let her in. And I remember thinking, perfect. Now, let me just tell you, about 80% of the time, I still get the car door for her 12 years later. It's just a habit. I do that. Now, sometimes she's there before I get there, and she opens her door, but I do that. And I like doing that for her. Now, here's the part that's cool, that I really think is cool. is over the past 12 years that I've been opening the door for Lee, our two youngest boys, Connor and Cooper, were still in the home. The older boys were pretty much out and gone to college when I started doing this, and so they didn't see their dad doing it a lot. But them younger two boys, they have watched their dad for as long as they can remember. Their dad has opened the car door for their mama. I got to notice it. About 4 or 5 years into opening the car door, marriage, started at 20th, about year 25 or whatever it was, I got to noticing that anytime we went somewhere as a family, I never was able to get her car door because one of those two boys would have already opened it for her. All they knew was that when we go places, somebody's supposed to open Mom's car door for her. And I love that because I had taught them how to treat someday a future wife because they've watched their dad treat their mother with kindness and tenderness and go, hey, it's special. I've opened this door for you and you can climb in there. And anymore, if we go out as a family, man, Cooper, I rarely get the door because he's always beating me to the door to open it for his mama because all he knows is somebody's supposed to get Mom's door. There'll be a time somewhere and actually it's already happened with the other two, but there'll be a time somewhere that those two younger boys are going to have a girlfriend or a fiance or a wife, and they're going to say, hey, Trey, do you know what your son does? He opens the car door for me. And I'm going to go, yes. Because they have watched their dad do that for their mom. So here's my point, and I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to throw it back out there one more time. Dad, if you have boys, your boys are learning how to treat their future wives by watching how you're treating yours. They're in your school, and you need to be teaching them well. If you have daughters, you are teaching your daughters what to expect from a future husband. And if they date a jerk, you want them to know, this guy's a jerk. He doesn't treat me anything as nice as my dad treated my mom. You're teaching your daughters what to expect from marriage someday. So treat your wife well. And of course, the same goes true for you wives in here, but we're not working on y'all right now. The sons and daughters are learning from you how to treat future husbands. And what to expect from future wives. But you be romantic occasionally, whatever she thinks is romantic. All right? Number 4, always talk about your wife in a positive light. We'll try not to get too preachy on this point. But I want to throw this out there because this is really important. There was a time in America that we went through kind of a Rodney Dangerfield era back in the early 2000s to where it was really cool to talk negative about your wife or tell jokes about your wife or make your wife the butt of your jokes. Rodney Dangerfield was a comedian, and his big jokes were things like, I love my wife. We go out at least twice a week. I go out on Thursday night. She goes out on Friday. Whatever it was. And it was, and it was funny, but men thought it was really cool to use their wife for the butt of their jokes or to talk about their wife around their buddies as hey, she don't have me wrapped around her little finger. I think we've grown out of that as men in this country finally. And I think finally we're beginning to see that the most manly men, at least in my eyes, the most manly men in this country that I look up to are those men who go, I am a married man and I love my wife. And no one, including me, will talk bad about her. And I will stick up for her, and I will not make fun of her. I will not use her as the butt of my jokes, and I will not in public make little jokes about her hair or her cooking or anything else. I love men who will just go, man, I'm married to the greatest wife in the world, and I've married up. And I love being married. I love men who are proud to be a married man. Always talk about your wife in a positive light. I raised 4 boys. And from day one, I wanted them to know you will always respect your mother, and you will talk to your mother kindly, and you will be respectful of your mother. Now, my boys and we have a lot of sarcasm in the Morgan family. I'll just put it that way. We're pretty sarcastic. I've raised a couple of boys that are a lot like their dad, and that sarcasm runs pretty thick. But I raised 4 boys, and our big joke at our house, and it was a joke, my boys understood that, but they also at times would think, is Dad really joking? When they got a little sharp with their mama, as boys, they got a little bit of a tone with Mom, man, I was on that. You're not going to do that. We are not going to talk to her like that. I brought you into this world. I can take you right out of this world. We'll create another one just like you, and we won't even miss you if you're going to talk to your mama like that. All 4 of my boys can quote that word for word because they'd heard it so many times. Yeah, Dad, you take us out, and you create another one just like us. But you know what? My boys always was respectful to their mamas. They were always respectful to their mom. And anytime they weren't, they knew Daddy's going to get you. You better watch your mouth. Dad's going to get you. Now, I told you about that oldest son of mine that was on the far left earlier, Army Ranger Special Operations kid. He was the Army's Tier 1 task force, meaning his little group of men for about 4 years, his little team, pretty much did what SEAL Team 6 does for the Navy side, but he worked on the Army side. Basically, he went in, did 30-some-odd missions at night. They basically would go, hey, here's a guy we need you to go get. Here's where he's at. And he's had over 1,000 flights on helicopters and jumping out of planes. He's done some crazy stuff. They spent a lot of money and a lot of time training that kid. And he's still respectful of his mama. To the point that one time while we were taking him back to the airport before a deployment, we had him a little bit of time, and he always come home for deployments, and he going back to the airport, we realized, hey, we're going to get him there too early, and we need to spend a little more time with him. We stopped at a store, and we were walking around Viston before we got to the airport, and I said, being on time, Dad, hey, we need to leave in about 5 minutes if we're going to make it to the airport in time. We need to leave right now if we're going to we should have left about 5 minutes ago, Mama and son, and about 10 minutes passed when I thought we should leave. I got a little bit of a tone with his mama in the store. And I said something about, we got to go. And that boy looked up at me across the aisle and goes, we don't talk to her like that. And I remember thinking, I am more proud of that boy today for standing up to his daddy than I ever have been before. Now, he probably could have taken me out of this world, all right? But that wasn't the point. The point was he realized, he knew, we don't talk to Mom in that tone of voice. I will never forget that right there. That was good stuff. I had a friend, and he really was struggle with this. And his big joke was, loved to get around all the crowd and talk about his wife's cooking and his wife's way she's dressed and her hairstyles. And I was always trying to kind of encourage him, no, hey, you need to do this a little bit different. We'd hang out together, and I'd talk about, hey, here comes 2 pretty ladies right here in the room. I thought, man, I'll be a good example of talking about how he should be talking about his wife. And he would come back with something about, yeah, you may feel that way, but whatever it was, he would always have some little cut down for his wife. And I remember I finally caught him, and I said, hey, you can't keep doing this. If you keep constantly making jokes about your wife and her clothing and her hairstyle and whatever it is, her weight, she will never, ever, ever be the wife you want her to be because you're pushing her down emotionally. I said, besides all that, I don't want to be mean, I don't sound bad, but at some point she may go, I'm tired of living with this guy. This guy's not nice to me at all, and she's going to check out on you. His words, I'm the best thing she got going. About 8 months later, he comes into my office and he sits down. He's got his ball cap in his hand and kind of got a sad look on his face. And I said, what's up? He goes, you hadn't heard? And I said, nope. He goes, my wife left me 2 days ago. You know what I told him? In a very nice way? I told you this was coming. Because nothing had changed. I said, you can't treat your wife like a jerk and expect her to be a wife that just wants to be your best friend and hang out with you all the time. Be cautious about how you speak about your wife. Can I throw out one more thing? There's a verse, 1 Peter chapter 3. I'll just tell you that. First 5 verses, you just read all that right there. There's a verse in the Bible that says, treat your wife gently. There's the old King James Version says, treat her like a weaker vessel, meaning she's breakable. Handle her gently. You be gentle with her verbally, physically, sexually. You be gentle with your wife. She is God's daughter. If you married a Christian woman, you married a daughter of the King. And the King, your heavenly father-in-law, expects you to treat her well. And I don't know about you, but I do not want to be in trouble with my heavenly father-in-law. He can be a bit scary if you don't treat his daughters right. But that verse goes on to say that if you don't treat her well, don't bother praying and asking God for things because He's not going to listen to your prayers. It's kind of a scary verse, isn't it? Don't spend your time asking God to bless you because your prayer ain't going to get above that ceiling right there because He's like, man, you can't treat my daughter like garbage and then ask me to do something nice for you. We'll talk about that more later. I think I did good not being preachy. Learn the art of non-sexual touching. Now, if your wife puts somewhere close to the top of her list, affection, this is really important to her, okay? Non-sexual touching. And for a lot of men, it's like, what does that mean, non-sexual touching? Because if we're touching, does this not mean it's got to be going somewhere? Non-sexual touching means she likes to cuddle on the couch. She might want a back rub that has nothing to do with sex. She wants to hold hands. One author says that many wives need at least 10 non-sexual touches a day, right? Men are going, that's a lot of touching. You know, non-sexual touch, and that may just mean touching her shoulder, that may mean touching her leg, rubbing your hand across her back when you walk through the kitchen, non-sexual touching, and 10 of those a day. She also suggests, and I think this is fantastic, when she comes home from work or when you come home from work, when you hadn't seen her all day long, you should give your wife at least a 7-second hug. I think that's pretty awesome. Now, a lot of men go, 7 seconds? That's like forever, you know? I mean, my goodness, you sit there forever and go, okay, break, 7 seconds. No, you don't watch your watch the whole time. Give her a hug. Because a lot of men, you know what we do a lot of times? How many of you got dogs at home? You walk in the door after you've been gone all day and you're down wrestling with the dog in the floor who's so excited to see you. And your wife's over there like, I'm right here too, you know? 10 non-sexual touches. This doesn't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't work like that. You can't take 10 and go 10, you know, all day long. If your wife needs affection, she needs you to be able to touch her. And that's holding hands and cuddling on the couch and things along those lines. Number 6. You do this one?
Pray for her and with her. We've never met a wife that says, man, I hate it when my husband prays for me. You know, I mean, it just doesn't happen. Pray for her. Tell her, you know, ask her if there's anything that you can pray about for her. Tell her that you're praying for her and pray with her. What a powerful powerful intimacy in marriage is prayer. And don't miss out on that. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
We talk a lot in this workshop about intimacy. And there's more than just sexual intimacy. Sexual intimacy is an important part of marriage, and we'll talk about that. We'll have a whole session on that tomorrow. But there's also intimacy in communication. And that's actually how you fell in love, was talking, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. One of the other intimacies that a lot of couples miss out on is spiritual intimacy, and that's a big one. There's a lot of couples that when they discover it, they go, where has this been? I feel so close to my wife or so close to my husband. We did not realize we were missing out on this intimacy that made us so close. We brought 2 books with us. We wrote 2 books, one a couple of years ago called 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage. And we talk about this and why it's so important in the last chapter of this book. It's a little orange book. And it's kind of a book on improving your marriage. In fact, a lot of what we talk about here is in the orange book. And that's kind of why we put that together. A lot of couples go, hey, we need a refresher or we can't make the workshop. So we wrote the orange book back there. Last November, during quarantine, Lee said, hey, I know we didn't plan on putting a book together until next year, but what else do we have to do right now, you know? And so we wrote Wisdom for Your Marriage. It's the big black book back there. It's kind of a journal book that you write in, and it's from the book of Proverbs. It's 31 Days to a Stronger Marriage. And that book is a book on spiritual intimacy. You read a chapter from Proverbs together each day, and you answer a few little questions. We actually did it in January together, and it would take us about 10 minutes each morning, maybe 15 tops, and give us some great discussion. And then there's some prayer prompts that you can pray with your spouse in there. And so if you're sitting there and you're going, man, we really could use to grow spiritually in this intimacy area, spiritual intimacy, man, I promise you, the Wisdom for Your Marriage book is one that would bless you in that, because that is exactly what that was for. Some of y'all have read that book, and we appreciate that very much. But pray with and for your wife. Number 6, help around the house, or put it this way, do your part, carry your weight.
Carry your weight, yeah. When we put this workbook together, we kind of were basing it off of our own experience, and I was blessed to get to stay home with our boys when they were little, and so I was happy to do the bulk of the housework and the shopping and the cooking, but I still needed for him to help me around the house. I didn't feel like, of course I didn't mess it all up by myself, so I needed him to pull his weight. And we actually...
Are you saying I'm messy?
Just a little. We got to talk to some college kids a couple of weeks ago about relationships and dating and kind of what to expect from marriage. And we told them that when you go into marriage, a lot of times you're basing what you expect your marriage to be like from the house that you grew up in. And so a lot of times you go into it thinking, well, our house is going to run the same way. Well, your spouse-to-be may have grown up in a totally different environment. And so, we encouraged them, these are good things that you need to talk about before you get married, kind of talk about how we're going to do the household thing, especially because we're finding out today, that's why we really ought to change that to pull your weight around the house or something different besides help around the house, is because most of the time, both people are working outside the home these days. And so you shouldn't just be helping around the house. You should pretty much be splitting everything, right down the middle. And so it's good to kind of talk about those things before marriage, like, who's going to do what. And, we told them if it just takes making a list of every single thing that needs to be done, and y'all go down and, kind of, well, you like to mow, and so that one's yours, and I'll do the cooking, and that one's mine. But yeah, either help around the house or split everything evenly, because it's important in marriage.
Yeah. And then when you have little kiddos? Yeah,
I like to throw in that when you have kiddos that are, really small and depend on you for everything, whether you work outside the home or not, those kids they really need a lot of mom's attention. They need dad's attention too, but for whatever reason, a lot of times a lot of it falls on mom. And so I like to just tell dads, be extra patient during these years and be, help out a little bit more with the kids or with the house, whatever you can help out with, because like I said, in our experience, I'm sure there were times that Trey would come home and the house would just be a total disaster, and I'd stayed home all day and had, what he thought was plenty of time to get it picked up and cleaned up, but what he didn't know was maybe I just spent most of the day, building Legos or coloring pictures or reading stories or playing dress up, whatever it was. And I spent the day playing with my boys. And sometimes those things are just so much more important than vacuuming and, loading the dishwasher or whatever it is, because, man, those years fly by. And so just during those early years, be extra patient during those times.
Can I ask a question? What if they don't know what to do exactly to help? Ask.
Yeah. If you're thinking, I really should probably need to be doing something to help, and you just don't know where to start because a lot of men just don't see what needs to be done like women do, just ask, what can I do to help you? Don't say, is there anything I can do to help you? Say, what can I do to help you?
And that was me. I struggled with that early in marriage and still do sometimes. I would walk home, get home from work, and I'd step over toys in the living room and walk past dishes in the sink and find Lee where she was folding clothes on the bed doing laundry and ask her about her day, and then go, is there anything I can do to help you? And I had not noticed the stuff on the floor and I think she finally just got to the point where she just said, yeah, can you grab those dishes or whatever it was? And so
I would be irritated because he would say, is there anything I can do? And I'm like, so yeah, just ask, what can I do to help you? And it'd be great.
Perfect. Number 8, guys, we're 2 more and we'll take a break. Take an interest in something your wife likes. If your wife, let's put it this way. If your wife is interested in it, you should be interested in it too. Whatever it is, her hobbies, you should at least be able to have conversation about them, to ask about how your day was, to know what's going on at work. Tell me about what you got going on at work. Whatever it is, you take an interest in things your wife likes. The best marriages are built on friendships, and friendships mean common interests. Meaning you're best friends with people that you have common interests with. And so, like us, we've struggled for a lot of years trying to build common interests because my interests were different from her interests. And she's had to learn to like things that I like, and I have learned to like things that she likes. My wife loves flea markets and thrift stores, vintage items. We drive through some little town and she'll go, oh, there was a thrift store right there. And I'm like, oh, we better go back, because that's what she likes. I can now, used to, I didn't want anything to do with that. I'll sit in the car, and sometimes I still sit in the car for a while she goes in and looks. But I can walk into a thrift store and pick out, my wife will like that, and my wife will like this, and I know what she likes. We went to a flea market at Canton, Texas, for her birthday. She said, I want you to take me to Canton, Texas for my birthday. They have a flea market so big you can't even see all of it in one day. And I thought, there is hell on earth, I guess, right? There is out there, a flea market so big you can't even get through it in a day. It's like a giant garage sale. But I had decided I am going to go and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to like it. And I'm preaching to myself in my head. And I said, I'd love to take you. And I told her, I said, I'll carry anything you buy and I will bring my wallet full of cash and whatever you want. I mean, she'd pick something up. You want that? I'll buy that for you. And I will be honest with you. We spent 2 days at a flea market and I had a lot of fun. I really did. We had I did not know flea markets could be fun. And I carried stuff, when she bought stuff, and we had the best time, and she still talks about how much fun she had, and I am glad that I got to be a part of that. I have learned that my wife likes old junk. Maybe that's why she likes me, right? I don't know. We had a cleanup day in our little community a while back where they opened the dump outside of town, and they said, hey, anybody's got stuff they need to clean up and dump for free, just bring it. And so a bunch of us men in our community with pickups and trailers said, hey, we'll just go around alleys and help pick stuff up. And so we spent the day taking stuff to the dump for people that didn't have pickups and trailers or couldn't do that. And I got to working with an old farm boy by the name of Gary, who I like, and we'd somehow or another we'd wind up at the same time. I'd help him unload his trailer, and he'd help me unload my trailer, and we'd go back and get some more. End of the day, he's helped me unload mine, I'm helping him unload his, we're kind of done for the day, and I see Gary reach down at the bottom of his trailer, and he's about to chunk an old door that he has picked up in an alley or somewhere that somebody has put to throw away out the trailer, and I go, whoa, hold on. And Gary goes, what is it? I said, where'd you get that door? He said, it was in the junk pile they told me to throw away. And I said, don't throw that away. He goes, what am I doing with it? I said, it's going in my trailer. I'm taking it to my house. He goes, why would you want an old junky door? I said, I don't. But my wife is going to love this. I know her, and she's going to like this. And he said, your wife wants an old junky door? And I said, yes, it's part of being married, Gary. One of these days you'll understand. You know, he's a single guy. But I said, yes, put that in my... So I took that thing home, and I pulled up in the driveway, and I said, hey, babe, come out here and look what I got you. And she came over, and I said, look what I got you at the dump. Pretty romantic, ain't it? And I said, she looked in there in that old door, and she goes, I love it. Is that for... I said, yeah. I said, somebody's going to throw that away. And she said, you did good. And I said, all right. And that door still, it's in our house today. We have that door in our house. Now, Gary, he always likes it. He goes, man, Trey don't buy presents for his wife. He just goes to dump and digs through stuff and makes her happy. And I'm like, well, that's cheap though, right? Learn what your wife likes. And take an interest in things that she likes to do. Be the spiritual leader in your home, guys. You go, why are you giving me that job? I didn't. God did. If you want to write down a verse, Ephesians 6, verse 4, we think God knows what He's doing on family and marriage. And so He actually says to the husbands, to the men, train your children. He's not talking about training them to hit a ball. He's not talking about training them to kick a ball. He's not talking about helping them with their homework. He is talking about spiritually, in values and integrity. You teach your children what is right and what is wrong. Teach your children to respect others, whether their beliefs are the same, whether their skin color is the same as yours. You teach them about honesty. You teach them about whatever it is. But you be that spiritual leader in your home. That is a job that God gave us to do. Number 10, value your marriage. Value your marriage. As men, we value a lot of stuff. We kind of put our value in odd things sometimes. We value our careers, our jobs, and that's okay. Those are important to us. We value our toys, cars and houses and whatever it is. But the most important thing that we should be valuing, earthly thing, is our relationships, and specifically our relationship in our marriage. I've known a lot of men who put their value in the wrong stuff, and then when their marriage started crumbling, they realized, hey, that stuff really, that's junk compared to my marriage, and I got to get this marriage like it's supposed to be. You value your marriage, because when the end of your days comes, the fact that you were a child of God and that you loved your wife and you loved your children is all that matters. That's all that matters. I do a lot of funerals. I speak at a lot of funerals. My favorite funerals. Can you have favorites? My favorite funerals are men who caskets right there, and I go, this man loved God. He adored his wife for however many years, and he was a great dad. And what I want to do is go, we're done. Nothing else needs to be said. It don't matter what job he had. It don't matter how much money he had in the bank. Nothing matters other than the fact that this guy loved God and his wife and his kids. That's what matters about this man right here. Value your marriage. All right, it is 8:04. We are going to take a break, about 6 minutes, about 8:10. We're going to kick back in, get up, stretch your legs, find a cup of coffee, find a little water, go to the bathroom. Guys, we're done with you. Take a deep breath and go, whoo, we're going to talk to the women next, okay?
First birthday today to everybody. Good to see you. We lived in Texas years ago. You know, people in Oregon, they're in the north side of the yeah, they're you're in Oregon, we're all winners. So. I live in Washington, so I can call you.
Yeah, me too.
Got 1 minute. We're going to start in 1 minute. 1 minute. All right, let me catch you up with where we're going. We're going to talk to the wives for a few minutes. We're going to give you a homework assignment for tonight. We're going to show you a little video before we leave. We're going to close with a word of prayer here in a little while. And then we will see you back in the morning for donuts and coffee around. You can come as early as you want to, 8:30, 8:45. We'll start at 9. We always tell folks that it starts, a little earlier just to get everybody there so that when we do start. But
Because he's the on-time person.
because I'm an on-time person. Sorry. Yeah. So we had a verse for the husbands. Let's have a verse for the wives. And Leah's going to talk about this here in a minute, down at about point number 8 here in a second. But here's Peter, and he's in that same text where it talks about treating your wife gently. But he's talking to the wives here, and he says, your beauty should not just come from outward adornment. I think Peter knows that wives like to look good, and we have nothing wrong with that. I mean, husbands are okay with this. Wives like to look good, and they want to look good. But notice what he says. It shouldn't just come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles or wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle, quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. Basically, as Lee will tell you in a minute, it's about striving to look beautiful on the inside as you do on the outside. And he's talking to wives, and again, we'll talk more about that in just a second. But if you had a chance, we're going to go through this. You'll notice with the men earlier, all of those things were action-oriented things. Same's really going to hold true for the wives here. We're going to do some action-oriented things that are going to show your husband that you love them. And number one, never stop pursuing your husband. All right, we had never stop pursuing your wife, but now we're going to say don't stop pursuing your husband. Now, a lot of wives will go, but wait, I don't remember pursuing my husband. You did. Be honest. You did. And if you forgot, I'll tell you how. I can think of 4 ways which you let your husband know you were interested in him. Number 1, you flirted with him. Whether that was twirling your hair or batting your eyes or touching his arm, whatever it was, you flirted with him and he liked it. And I'll tell you a little secret, he still likes it. I don't care if you've been married 1 year or 51 years. He still likes it when you flirt with him. That never gets old. Don't stop that, okay? Another thing that you did for him is you bragged on him. Yeah, you bragged on him a lot. Before you got married, you bragged on everything. I like the way you comb your hair. I like that shirt that you're wearing. I like you, whatever it was. You just bragged on him all the time. You are so strong. You do that so well. Whatever it was, you bragged. And he was like, I like hanging out with her because she makes me feel really good. She's always bragging on me. Now, if you did that pre-marriage, you should still be bragging on him today. He still likes it when you brag on him, all right? When you give him that admiration. We'll talk about that in a second. You know what else you did for him pre-marriage? You dressed up. Do you remember going on dates when he'd call and he'd go, I'll pick you up at 6, and you would have spent, I don't know how long getting ready for a date, but when you walked out of the room, you were hoping he would just say one word when he looked at you. Remember what that word was? That's right. Wow. Meaning, you look really good. You look awesome. You wanted to make sure that you kind of wowed him when you went out for a date. He still likes it when you do that. That hadn't changed. That hadn't changed. And I'll give you a fourth thing that you may have done, may not, but you may have done, is you probably tried to find out what his favorite foods or dessert was, and you either tried to cook them or you tried to fix his favorite dessert. He still likes that too. All those things, whatever you did pre-marriage, you should still be doing after you're married as well. I said this for the men. I'll say it for the women. Let's repeat it. This is really, really good point right here. Work as hard to keep your spouse as you did to win your spouse, and pretty much everything will be awesome, all right? When you both work as hard to pursue one another as you did to catch one another in the beginning. Number 2, communicate clearly. Some of your handouts may say, don't use the silent treatment. I don't know. We had a couple of older handouts we threw in that we were trying to use up. Some of yours may say, don't use the silent treatment. But basically what we wanted to say is communicate clearly.
Yeah. Your husband is not a mind reader. I promise he's not. And a lot of times we're bad about thinking, well, we've been married for 30 years. He should just know. I promise he doesn't. He really doesn't. He's not good with hints. When you say connect the dots, you can't put the dots close enough for them to connect usually. You just need to spell it out plainly and clearly, and usually more than once. And as Trey said, the silent treatment, we kind of get aggravated at our husbands and we just get quiet and huffy all day, and they'll come in and say, well, honey, is there something wrong? There seems to be something bothering you, and we're, no. And, this will go on all day, and finally, they're so confused because our body language is saying there's something wrong and everything else, and it's just not healthy. And finally he'll come in and say, I know there's something wrong because of the way you've been acting all day. Just tell me what's wrong. What is wrong? Well, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. That's how we like to do it. So just communicate clearly. Tell them what's bothering you if there's something bothering you. If you need something, tell them what you need. Don't expect them to read your mind or, pick up your hints or whatever. Scariest thing for Trey is whenever Christmas rolls around, tell him about.
Our early in marriage, we struggle with this because my wife is very intuitive. She picks up on the littlest stuff. I can just say something about something, and she'll go, oh, I'll get that for him for Christmas. I would never think of things like that. That my mind doesn't work like that. But she is she connects dots really well. And so many women do that, and they just automatically think, well, my spouse should do that. And I wasn't created that way. I don't do dots very well. And I remember about the first year, second year of marriage, I asked Lee one time, I said, hey, it's first part of December, and I'm going to buy you some Christmas that you'll like this year. Can you write down a few things on your Christmas list for me so that I'll know maybe something to get? And she said something along the lines of, well, I've already told you 4 or 5 things. Man, my little squirrel is running 100 miles an hour trying to remember one, and it may have just been a little thing about, we may have been at a store and she said, oh, isn't this a pretty shirt? I said, oh, yes, I'm just wanting to go, and she was like, oh, he caught on that this is something I would like to, no, I didn't catch on. I do now because I'm learning, and she's better with hints. She'll oftentimes hold it up and go, size 6, and I'll go, oh, okay. And so, if you're going to drop a hint for something, drop it well, okay? But communicate clearly. That's a really good point. Number 3, give your husband lots of praise, both privately and publicly. Praise him around your friends. Let him hear you praise him in front of the kids or the grandkids. This is so important, ladies, and I don't know if women realize how much power they have, but they have an unbelievable amount of power when it comes to either building their husband up with their words and making him feel like, I can do anything, or using their words to really pull him down and be critical. And ladies, you have that power, that amazing ability to build him up with your words by saying things about, hey, you're an awesome dad. You tell your husband, if you got little ones at home and you tell him all the time he's an awesome dad, you're going to look around all the time. He's going to be on the floor wrestling with the kids because he's just, I'm an awesome dad. He believes what you tell him. Whatever it is, he needs to hear those things. That's kind of how God wired men up. We want you, ladies, to be our biggest cheerleader. We do. That may sound silly to you, but have you ever noticed that your husband, get this, follow me, ladies. Have you ever noticed that your husband can do the smallest little item around the house, and then he'll come tell you about it like he really wants an award for it? Y'all ever notice that? Yeah, they do it all the time. I mean, I'd come in and I'd go, hey, babe, hey, Lee, I picked up that bowl that was on the cabinet and I put it over in the sink to load into the dishwasher. And I know early in the marriage she was like, why are you telling me this, If I told you every time I moved a bowl, I'd never get any bowls moved because I'd be telling you all the time, But let me tell you, ladies, why would he tell you all the time the smallest little thing he does as if he wants some kind of brownie button, for this chore that he's done? It's because he loves it when you tell him good job for something. He absolutely loves when you go, you did great. In fact, I will tell you this, you cannot change your husband by being critical. You can't. All day long, you can be critical about something you don't like, and he probably is not going to change. But if you will catch him doing what you like and praise him for it, you'll change him. He picks up them shoes out of the floor. You've been griping at him for leaving his shoes on the floor for a week. He picks them up, and if you just take a second and go, you are so awesome to pick those shoes up. I have been trying to figure out where those go in your closet. Thank you for it. Give him a little praise, and he may very well pick those up the next night. Does that make sense? We respond to praise much better than we respond to criticism. And I know that sounds silly, but it's really very, very true. We love it when you give us praise. We love it when you brag on us because we want to be your knight in shining armor. And that's why we oftentimes tell you things that we've done is because we simply want you to go, hey, awesome job. Awesome job. I have some friends in Childress. We do, Paul and Stacy. We've known them for 30 years. Paul called me the other day and he said, hey, Trey, can you help me build some fence? This is one of the stories in our first book. He said, can you help me build some fence? And I said, yeah, give me an office. I'll be there tomorrow. They've had chain link fence. They're going to get privacy. They're so excited about this. Stacy is so excited about this. And I said, I'll be there at 8 o'clock. And he said, all right, we'll get rolling. If we get half of it knocked out on Monday, we can finish up on Tuesday. And I said, sounds great. So we get there and I've probably been there 20, 30 minutes working. And, we've just kind of laid some poles in the hole. None of them are straight. We're just kind of trying to figure out what direction. Stacy comes out. She kind of looks at the pole and she goes, well, that's not even straight, Are y'all gonna make it? I said, yeah. I said we hadn't put any concrete in there. I said, we'll have it looking good. And she goes back in the house. She's just excited about her new fence. She comes out a little later and she sees something that's a little crooked. And Paul earlier had just kind of got through saying, hey, we got to change that. That's crooked. We'll find a straight one and use that picket somewhere down the line for something else. She comes out and said, hey, did y'all know that was crooked? And I said, yeah, Paul said something a while ago. We're going to take that off and fix it. She came out 2 or 3 times just because she wanted to make sure it looked good. And I can understand that. But about the 4th time she comes out, she kind of looked at the fence, and I said, now hold on, Stacy. And I'm just teasing her. I go, I work on praise. And I'm all right with you coming out here and saying such and such needs fixed, but I will work so much better and so much harder if you'll just give me a little praise before you tell me what I need to fix. If you just tell me I'm doing a good job, I'll stay here and work all day with Paul. And I said, that's how you pay me. And she goes, well, you are doing a good job. And I said, I know, but you hadn't told me yet. All you told me is my pole was crooked a while ago, you know? And she said, well, you're doing awesome, and I need you to stay and help him finish this job. And I said, well, then you better give me some praise. She goes back in the house. 10 minutes, she comes out. She looks at the fence. She looks down this way of the fence, and she looks at me, and she looks at Paul, and she goes, this is the best fence I've ever seen in my life. Goes back in the house. Now, Paul has not been paying attention to what we were doing in our little game that we were playing and her little praise that she was given. And he kind of looked at the fence too, and he goes, it's a good-looking fence. We're doing a good job. And I said, yeah, let's keep working. So we keep working. She comes, every 10 minutes, she comes out and brags on something. And every time she goes back in the house, Paul looks at what she said and goes, she's right. That's really good. We should be doing this for a living. After about the 5th time she comes out, he's saying, maybe we should be working through, maybe we can get this finished today. He's turned into super fence building man, you know? All because his wife is giving some praise. She doesn't have a clue what she's doing. But all he knows is, man, my wife likes this, and if she likes this, we're going to make this look good. I'm putting up a thing, and he's over here going, that's not good enough. We got to make that look really good over here. And he was doing a good job. She finally left for work, and I told her, she said, I got to go to work. And I said, good, we can finally get some work done, you know. And about 20 minutes later, Paul gets his phone, and he's old school, flip phone, flips it open, kind of grins, puts it back in his pocket. And I see him looking at the fence, and I go, what are you doing? He goes, well, Stacy said she could see the fence from work, and it looks fantastic, and she told me to tell you. And he goes, man, we're doing a good job. She had turned him into an amazing worker because she was just giving me a little bit of praise, and he was overhearing it because she is giving it to both of us. And I just remember thinking, perfect example. Husbands will knock down walls for their wives when they give them a little bit of praise. It just works that way. Lee and I have house cleaning day. When we're home on Saturdays, we clean house. I have my regular, for 30 years I run the vacuum, I sweep, I know what my 5 or 6 little chores around the house is that I do, and I get done, and I go, hey, I got my chores done, and I'm through, clean my doors and whatever it is. The other day, I got done with my list, and I'm done. I'm like, yes, I'm out of here. I do not want to clean house anymore. I'm going to go do some stuff I want to do. And I looked over, and she'd only crossed off like 2 things on her list, and she had a bunch left. And I thought, all right, what can I do to help her? So I looked over there, and she had the little duster out, and I thought, all right, I can dust. That will not kill me. And so I take the little duster, which is not on my list, and I go to the living room, and I'm working my little duster around doing my little stuff, and I kind of turn around, and she's walked through the room, and she's just standing there looking at me. And I turn around, and I go, because I'm trying to figure out, did I do something right, or did I do something wrong? And she said, you're Dustin. I said, yeah. She said, it's not on your list. I said, yeah, but I got through with my list. I thought I could help you with your list. Is that okay? And she said, oh, yeah. But she said, I want you to know, I'm not sure I have ever found you sexier than you are right now. Dusting my house. Man, you are an amazing duster. She did like that and walked off. I dusted the entire house that day. There was not one speck of dust on anything, and every time she walked through the room where I was working, I'd flaunt my sexiness everywhere for her to see, because she had told me, man, you are looking good dusting my house today, buddy. Man, silly point, just to make a point. Give your husband lots of praise, publicly and privately. Most husbands absolutely love it when you do so. Number 4, put your marriage on the front burner. Actually, I'm gonna throw number 4 and 5 up here together, if that's all right. All right? Number 4 and 5. And I'll say something real quick, and I'll turn it over to Lee. There is a peak, a spike, let's put it that way. There's a spike in the divorce rate. At about year 7, there's a little spike, and people always go, well, that's 7 years. People are trying to figure out. But did you also know there's a little spike at about year 22 to 24 in marriage? And for the longest time, people who study this kind of thing said, why 22, 24 years of marriage is there a spike in the divorce rate right here? Because you should have it figured out by now. And what they've discovered is what has happened is many couples spend all of their effort raising their kids. They are mom and dad. They're not husband and wife. They're mom and dad for the 18 years, 22 years that they have kids in their home. And they haven't played the role as husband and wife. They've only been mom. They took off mom and dad. They took off husband and wife hat, put on mom and dad hat, and they have only worked to be a mom and dad to raise kids. And then all of a sudden, those kids leave home at 22, 24 years. And that couple looks across the table at each other and goes, I don't even know who you are. I don't even have a relationship with you without my kids. What takes place is they find out, hey, we have empty nests now, and we have a very empty marriage because we haven't done marriage for 18 to 20 years. You can't do mom and dad for 18 to 22 years and never do husband and wife and have a healthy marriage when your kids leave home. You have got to be willing to go, I want to be mom and dad, yes, but we are also husband and wife. Your kids need to see husband and wife. They need to see more than mom and dad. They need to see you dating. They need to see you being affectionate with one another. They need to see you handling conflict. They need to see you kissing one another. They need to see you going out, all these sort of things that husbands and wives do. They don't need you to just be mom and dad in their world. So take over for a second and keep going on that.
Yeah, we want the best for our kids. Moms and dads want the best for our kids. But it seems like moms especially, we want to give our kids lots of opportunities to develop their interests and figure out what they're good at and where they can really flourish. And so we get them in all sorts of different sports and maybe gymnastics and dance lessons, art lessons, music lessons, you name it. And we're getting them involved in all these different things. And so then we're driving them to this practice and that practice, and we're going to this game and that game, and recitals, and we're volunteering for a concession stand, and maybe we're, room mom at school and volunteering for PTA and all of these things. The busier our kids get, the busier we get, and the more our calendars fill up. And we've got all their responsibilities to see to, and then we've also got, maybe we work full-time and we've still got all of the household stuff to get done, and we just find ourselves in bed exhausted every night. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I know there were a few years when we were there. The boys were so busy and we were just so busy. And if you're finding yourself dropping in bed exhausted every night, it's kind of over to number 5. It's really hard to make you fizzle. That button. It's wrong. I'm not touching the button. We have a book that we highly recommend called Sheet Music by Dr. Kevin Leman. And first got this book, I was flipping through the chapters, just looking at the chapter titles, trying to get acquainted with it. And there was one of the chapters that really got my attention, and it was called The Greatest Enemy of Sex. And I thought, greatest enemy of sex? What is that? So I flipped over to that chapter real quick because I wanted to know what he thought it was. And immediately he started talking about busyness and weariness. And that's, our schedules get busy. We're dropping in bed exhausted every night, and we are pushing that need to the back burner. We talked about the needs, list of needs, and we talked about sexual fulfillment is usually towards the top of a man's list. And if we're constantly, our schedules are pushing that to the back burner, that can be unhealthy for your marriage and your intimacy and making your love life sizzle. So just be careful with your priorities. Sometimes it's okay to say no, to really good activities. We can be involved in some really great things. But if it's causing us to be too busy to have, quality family time or quality us time, then it's okay to say no every once in a while to some of those good activities. And we feel like, if anything good has come out of quarantine and COVID, is that a lot of families, took a step back and realized, hey, this family stuff is good stuff. We were missing out on some good family stuff. And we hope that families have realized, you don't have to get right back into the busy, that it's okay to, pace yourself, say no to some things, guard your schedule, guard your calendar, and make sure that you're, not pushing that to the back burner and that you're making your love life sizzle.
Good point. And we'll talk about that tomorrow a bunch in the last session. It's a lot of fun. Dress with an aim to please your husband. If this is something, if visual is something your husband is visual. We actually posted on Instagram. I don't know if you saw it yesterday or not. It was a very popular post. We posted on there, if your husband is visual, be visually pleasing to your husband. I had a couple of husbands said, don't say if your husband, say when your husband, and it was like, okay, that's a good point. But if your husband, work as hard to take care of your bodies, husbands and wives. Do the best to look the best you can for your spouse. Number 7, take an interest in something that he likes to do. We talked about this from the one standpoint, at least learn to do like a lot of stuff, baseball. Yeah, you can talk about that? You want me to?
Yeah, I had no interest in baseball when we first got married. My dad never watched baseball. It was nothing I was familiar with. But I realized, that this is something that Trey and the boys like to do, and they like to go into games. And at first I thought, oh, y'all go do that, and I'm going to go shopping. And then I realized, I'm missing out. I'm missing out spending time with my husband and my boys. And so I thought, I can learn this. I can figure this out. And once I took an interest in it, I realized, man, this is the greatest sport ever. Where has this been my whole life? And it was not only a blessing to us because it gave us something to do together and something to talk about, but as a mom of boys, it's been a blessing also because I still have something, in common with my boys who are all now grown, but we can still have a conversation, even if it's just about baseball. So take an interest in something he likes to do, and it might surprise you that you really love it too.
Yeah, she plays fantasy baseball with us now, me and the boys and some other men, and if she continues to win, we're trying to figure out a way to get her out without hurting her feelings, but yeah, she likes her baseball, and she knows it very well. Take an interest in things that your husband likes to do. We had a lady, number 7 back there for a second. We had a lady that came up to us after a session, and she said, I can't get my husband to ever want to go out with me and do anything that I want to do. And I said, well, what does he do? She said, he's a deer hunter. And I said, well, have you gone deer hunting with him? She said, why would I want to do that? And I said, because it's what your husband loves. I said, maybe you should try just going with him once. And she said, do I have to? And I said, if you'll go with him and like it, or try to like it, then try and see if he would go with you to something. And she just kind of said, I remember her kind of going, oh, okay, I will do my best. I said, now if he's given up asking you, you may have to ask him if you can go. I really thought when she left, I thought, okay, that's the end of that. Hopefully it'll work out and I'll never hear from this woman again. Got an email from her about a month later, and in the subject line of the email, it said deer hunting. And I thought, oh no, I know who this is. And I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. She went deer hunting and hated it. So she sends me this email and she goes, I went on my first deer hunt last Saturday. She said, I went with my husband, and she said, we had a really good time. She said, we got to watch the world wake up. We drank coffee together in a deer blind. And she just went on about it and talked a little bit about it. She said, I didn't complain. It wasn't cold. She said, I probably will go back with him again sometime. And he liked that I went with him. And then at the end, she said, and I asked him if he would go Thursday night with me to a concert or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. And she said, he agreed to go. And I thought, there you go. Sometimes the best friendships are built on mutual interest in learning to do things that your spouse likes to do. All right, number 8, strive to be beautiful inside and out.
This goes back to the verse that Trey read in 1 Peter chapter 3. that your beauty doesn't just come from your outward adornment, but it comes from the inner beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. And that does not mean that, we have to sit there and never say anything and never give our opinion or whatever. Basically, it kind of goes back to number 3 that Trey talked about, giving your husband lots of praise. And, sometimes we just need to do an attitude check, because I know that what's in here usually comes out here. And, we just need to say, am I building him up, or am I being a little too critical? Am I pulling him down with my criticism? Am I speaking with gentleness and respect, or am I using that tone of voice that is, kind of icky? So I know for me, just an attitude check every once in a while goes a long ways to making sure I'm being just as beautiful on the inside as I am on the out.
Good point. Number 9, pray with and for your husband. Just like Lee said a while ago, ask your husband, can I pray about something for you today? Tell him you prayed for him. Better yet, one of the best things you can do is you're ready for bed and you climb into bed and the lights go out, take your husband's head, or husband take your wife's hand and say, can I just say a prayer for us tonight? Just something simple. Dear Lord, thank you for my marriage and my spouse. Bless our family. In Jesus' name, amen. Just something that simple. And then maybe the next night, the other spouse can take their turn. And what you'll find is in no time you'll be going, hey, that's really good stuff. I like that we're doing that together. Number 10, flirt. You go, hey, didn't you already mention this? Yeah, we just thought we'd throw this back out there because men really like flirting. They like it when their wives flirt with them. And sometimes wives go, now I don't even remember how to flirt with my husband. So let me give you a few tips, okay? Remember that 7-second hug that we encourage husbands to give? Wives, on occasion, give him a 7-second kiss. Or let me put it this way, give him a real kiss, all right? Husbands know the difference between a, hey, welcome home kiss and a, whoa, that was a real kiss right there. Give him a real kiss. Kiss him at a random stoplight, someplace where he's not expecting it. Standing in line at a restaurant, while you're waiting your turn to get in. While you're at a restaurant, take your foot under the table and rub his leg. He will like that. Now, if you're with a group or double dating, make sure it's his leg and not somebody else's. That's important. This is a great tool for flirting. Just send him a little message and tell him you're thinking about him today, or just send him a little flirty text message. Make sure, again, it's important you're sending it to your husband and it doesn't go to your mother-in-law, which a lady told me the other day. She said she sent us a message. We loved it. It was a fantastic story. She said, I had a very intense dream about my husband, and I thought I would share it with him. So I sat down and texted it to him and sent it to him while he was at work, and he didn't respond, and I couldn't understand because I thought he would like this dream. She said, I went back and looked, and I had actually sent it to his mother on accident. She said, it's been 2 weeks, and his mother has yet to say anything to me about it at all. She said, I was a little embarrassed about it at first, but now at least I know that she knows we have a good marriage. So make sure it goes to the right place. But yes, flirt with your spouse. All right, 3 things to do as a couple. All right, let's knock these 3 things out. I'll give you a homework assignment. We'll pray together, and then we'll watch a video, and we'll rest for the night. All right?
The first thing is to forgive. Be a good forgiver. Your spouse is not a perfect person. There are going to be times when they need some forgiveness. And you are not a perfect person. There are going to be times when you need forgiveness. You want to add to that?
Just the fact that, the better a forgiver you are in your marriage, the better your marriage is going to be. Learn to forgive before your spouse asks. Learn to forgive if they don't even know they hurt your feelings. Just be a good forgiver. We always like to say, if treat your spouse the way God treats you, which is better than you deserve. Treat your spouse the way God treats you, which is better than you deserve. Maintain your marriage. We maintain everything. Think about it for a second. We maintain our cars, we change the oil, we put new tires on there, we maintain our homes, we put new paint on there, we put new shingles on there, whatever it is. We maintain our kids. We take them in for well checks. When they're sick, we take them to the doctor. But sometimes we don't maintain our marriage. We just kind of push it to the back burner. And as long as it's not giving us trouble, we don't put any effort into it. And great marriages don't happen by accident. Nobody just accidentally has a great marriage. Nor do you have a great marriage by saying, I want to have a great marriage. It actually takes work. Put the effort in. You're doing that this weekend. This is fantastic. You are on the right track. This is a great step of improving your marriage. But look for new ways to do that. Find a book to read together. Lee and I have done this for 30 years. Somebody advised us to do this when we were newly married, and it's one of the best things we've done. About once or twice a year, we pick out a marriage book and read it together. We don't read out loud to one another. I'll read a chapter and underline things I think are important. She reads that same chapter and underlines things that are important. We'll kind of look at what each other underline and we move on. But we've done that. That's one of the best things we have ever done, is we've read a book together. We made every marriage workshop and marriage retreat that anybody offered anywhere when we were married. And it blessed us. You got to maintain your marriage. Put in the work. It will be worth it. And then understand that love is a choice, not a chance. Now, the world tells you that you fall into love and you fall out of love. And that's not true. In fact, we learned that first thing tonight from Ephesians 5:25. Love is not something you fall into, it's something you give. Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Love is an action. It is a choice, not an accident, not something you fall into or you fall out of. Love is something you choose to do every day. Every morning you get up and go, I'm going to love my wife today. I'm going to love my husband today. Even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to love them because they're going to love me. Choose to love your spouse, even on times you don't feel it, because that's what vows are about. All right. So let's look for a second at homework for tonight. And we'll watch it. We'll have a prayer and we'll watch a video together and we'll call it a night. We'll start back in the morning. We got some fun. Tomorrow we're going to talk about love banks in the morning, first thing, a little short lesson. We're going to talk about marriage killers. There's about 6 things out there that are really crushing marriages today. We're going to talk about those. And then we're going to close our time tomorrow about 11 o'clock with a section on intimacy. And it's one of our favorite lessons that we enjoy doing together. And then we'll give you some more homework. But for tonight, if you'll look on about page 2 where it says homework, how well do you know your spouse? You will see that list of 10 things on there. Now, have a little fun. This will be fun, okay? And it's all right. Have a little fun. Wives, let your husband, just do 1 through 5, okay? Let your husband guess what your top 5 are, okay? Just guess, and then down below, after they've guessed, write down kind of affection or communication or openness and honesty or whatever it is. Write down what your number 1 through number 5 is. And then guess over here on his, what his number 1 through 5 is. And then husbands, you come down here and write number 1 through 5 on this. Okay, so by the time you come back in the morning, you should know what your wife's top 5 needs are and your husband's top 5 needs are. All right, that needs to be done tonight. One more assignment on the 2 things we just did. 10 things for husband, 10 things for wives. Husbands, you show your wife this list of 10 things for husbands, the ones where we talked about husbands, and you ask her tonight, honey, circle 3 things on this list that you would really like me to work on. 3 things. Wives, don't go, 3, how about 10? You know, we're going to start with 3, okay? Circle, ladies, 3. Look down here and you go, oh, I really love number 4. And actually, if you get a chance, talk about all these. You may look down here and go, number 4 is not me. Don't ever touch me 10 times a day. I don't want you touching me 10 times a day. You touch me 10 times a day, I'll break all your fingers, you know. So you may need to talk about those things. That's a good thing to talk about. But you go through here and you circle 3 things, ladies, that you would like him to improve on, okay, or really work on. And then wives, you turn over to your page and you go, honey, what's 3 things on here that you really want me to step up? And don't say number such and such. You let him circle any 3 that he wants to, okay? So you let him circle 3 on here, and then whatever he circles, guys, whatever she circles, you go to work on really focusing the next month or so. I'm going to work hard on those 3 things, and I'm going to get where I'm really good at those 3 things before I move on to the next 3. Everybody understand their homework? It's not hard. That's pretty easy. That's pretty fun. Okay, let's have a word of prayer. Oh, and this is perfect timing. Let's have a word of prayer, and we're going to ask God to bless our night and our marriages, and then we're going to watch a video, okay? Just so you know, this video is a little quiet, so you may have to turn this one up here in just a minute. But if you're here with your spouse, why don't you grab their hand and let's pray together. Father, thank you so much for your love and your grace. Thank you for blessing us tonight with a marriage workshop where we can improve something that we take for granted oftentimes. Father, sometimes we're selfish, prideful. We say things we don't mean. We say things just to hurt our spouse. We're selfish. Forgive us for being these things and help us to realize we want to create an amazing marriage that blesses us and those around us. Bless our marriage. Bless our spouse. Bless our families. Bless each person here tonight and watching online. And we thank you, Father, for Jesus. Help us to rest well tonight and get our homework done and be back in the morning. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, let's watch this little video, and after it's over, you are dismissed.
Man, he's giving you a lot of those notes.
Yeah, I think it's cute.
Love is patient. Love is kind.
It's the most beautiful tiny ring I've ever seen.
Love doesn't boast.
It's not much.
But it's ours.
Welcome home.
Love isn't proud.
I'm sorry. There's no heartbeat.
Love protects.
Have to go.
Have a nice quiet day at work, hon.
Love doesn't envy.
Finally, you and me.
Love isn't self-seeking.
What time are you coming home?
Love keeps no records of wrongs. Love always trusts and always hopes.
See y'all in the morning.
My aunt grew up down in been there 28 years this year. She said, trees are all the way, I can't see anything. You know, flatland. Well, I don't know what you're doing. In Texas, everybody goes, you want to go to
This is my wife, Ann.
Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you.
I thought it was interesting that at the very beginning of going through differences
Us.
There we go. Most couples can, and you can do that forever. Holidays, traditions, we could do a list that was behind things that are different. Foods. That is true.
Well, do you guys have anything planned for tomorrow afternoon or time off?
We actually are going to go out to the waterfall.
Okay.
We're going to go, you know the first name.
Multnomah
That's
Falls?
it. We're going to go out to the falls, and then we talked about, we have 2 or 3 little spots that people said, you got to go see this and this and this. And so we got you know, so we've kind of got some things lined out that we're going to do, and we're excited about.
Good.
So,
Now, Multnomah Falls, give you a hint, if you're going to go, you may not be able to get the free. Usually that parking lot fills up. And, yeah.
in fact, they, after a time, you have to make
Make reservations even to park and go up to it. Now, if you go down the freeway, you can see it from the freeway. Okay. Boy, sometimes it's tough. And with the COVID thing, it's been tough because sometimes they'll let you in, sometimes they won't. So I hope that you get to.
the nice thing is it's only about 25 miles away, so it's not
Right,
like
yeah. Oh.
we're going to drive 4 hours
Right.
and turn around and come back. So.
Yeah. And there are other, take the old Columbia Highway, and we'll pass several other falls on that highway. Okay? Beautiful, beautiful falls. So,
Yeah. And your husband has said something about eating out Sunday.
Yes, yeah.
Good. Good. Or eating somewhere. It doesn't have to be out. Whatever y'all want to do, we're good.
Okay.
Whatever y'all want to do.
All right, yeah, look forward to it. So,
We do too.
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
I hope you
Thank
guys-
you for picking up the slack. And, are you enjoying working with Matt and everything?
No.
He's just the worst. Isn't he a great guy? He is a great young man. I
Yeah,
enjoy his
we're having a good time,
enthusiasm,
yeah.
his love for people, and evangelism is just, he's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah, we're having fun, and so, yeah, I'm the, well, I tell you what, sometimes I just get feeling so old, so, because these guys are all
Never thought we'd
really
be there.
yeah.